Hi, I'm Brent Barnett here on Brownfield Ag News, and joining us today is Greg McBride, Director of Brokerage with Allendale, and our topic will be the situation ongoing in Iran. Greg, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. How are you, Brent?
Hey, we're doing just fine. And what is the latest that we've been seeing with Iran, Greg? A lot to unpack here of late.
It's wild, and right before we jumped onto this, we're getting notes about the impact or what was happening over there. So as of right now, we're hearing that there were at least 6 missiles launched by Iran, however you want to say it, looking at bases, U.S. bases, or a U.S. base in Qatar. They had already shut down air traffic in Qatar. Supposedly, we heard that Saudi Arabia had shut down some air traffic. So this is obviously we're looking at a retaliation from the bombing that the U.S. did on Saturday. This is obviously we're seeing the markets move. What's interesting is you've seen crude oil prices. They jumped $4.50 last night on the open. They started to fade back. They were down about $1 at one point, and we started to hear that an attack or a launch was imminent, and the crude started to come back. It was up about 70, 80 cents. And then as soon as we got confirmation, the market just fell apart. We were down at $2 at one point. And that's kind of where we stand right now is we're just looking at insane amounts of volatility. Obviously, anything that has to do with crude oil at this point is going to be an issue. If they talk about engaging with the Iranians, if they talk about the Iranians working towards a ceasefire or anything like that, we're going to see different directions in crude. The confusing thing was when we finally got confirmation that they were doing something, that the crude did drop off like $2. So that's counterintuitive.
Greg, with us here at Brownfield covering farm and ranch news, is this an issue, the issue with Iran and the whole situation, something that the U.S. ag industry should be paying attention to?
Yeah, twofold here. So obviously we watch the crude oil. If there's a longer scale or a longer issue here, we're going to be talking about crude oil probably going up, which tends to put some inflation into the market. Obviously, the rest of the markets will pay attention to that. Commodities will pay attention, and if crude oil goes up, that'll add a measure of inflation to commodity prices. The other side of it is when you start talking about the crude market, you start to talk about the fuel market that goes along with it. You could see gas prices go up. What's that going to do for ethanol? What could that do for this new biofuel mandate or blend mandate that we've gotten for bean oil and the beans? So any sizable move to the high side or the low side should move these grain markets a little bit as well. And we've kind of seen that fluctuation as the crude came off the highs here today. That the grains started to back off again, and there is some measure of that now. Obviously, when it comes to corn, beans, wheat, anything like that, at this time of the year, we're going to be really paying attention to weather. But you can't ignore an energy sector movement.
We've been hearing a lot over the weekend about the Strait of Hormuz and alleged threats from Iran of shutting that strait down. Can you tell us about just how pivotal of a corridor that Strait of Hormuz is and any potential impacts there of a possible shutdown?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. So they don't technically own the Strait of Hormuz, but they do have quite a bit of rights to it. It's a narrow pathway from the Persian Gulf out for the export lanes from Saudi Arabia, from Iraq, a lot of those countries. About 20 to 25% of the world exports go through that area. Now, only about 5% of that is going to the United States. About 50% goes to China. So there's some real concerns about how long they could actually keep that down without China saying, "Hey, we're not getting our crude oil the way we need to because they are still a strategic ally of Iran. So if there's an issue, expect China to start to perk up if they aren't getting their crude imports the way they need to.
Before we go, Greg, what do you think producers should be keeping an eye on here moving forward as we continue to monitor this situation with Iran?
Well, first and foremost, I think they have to keep an eye on what's going on in their own backyard. Obviously, whether we're in that crucial growing period and that crucial development period here over the next 3 to 4 weeks for corn and the next month and a half for beans, weather is going to be a big deal. But if you see them really ramp up the rhetoric on both sides, and let's say this turns into a full-scale war, look for potentially some inflationary issues on these markets. Obviously, no farmer is going to argue with seeing corn and bean prices go up. But the thing to remember is that just as fast as they can go up, sometimes they go down that much faster. So if something gets resolved and it's artificially inflated, we can see that market fall off real quick, and that's what we have to be careful about. So if they have a plan, they need to stick to that plan of where they should be selling their corn, where they should be selling their beans. And I mean, we know nobody wants war, but I mean, I think we're at the point of anything we can do to get these corn and bean prices higher. That's gonna help us out to be able to make some sales and feel a little bit better about how we did in the marketing side of things this year.
Greg, always good to hear your insight. Thanks for joining us here on the program today.
Thanks, Brent.
Greg McBride, Director of Brokerage with Allendale, and I'm Brent Barnett with Brownfield Ag News.